All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Executive Nominations Committee. I heard our appointment secretary give out great instructions as we get started here today. Just want to remind some of you all, and I think I told at least the front row, for those who are directly behind the speaker, you will be on the camera most of the time, whether you like it or not. So just be aware of that. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I did see Senator Jackson enter the room. Want to go ahead and get started with Senator Jackson?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Hayes, Mr. President, and the Executive Nominations Committee. It's a pleasure to introduce Ms. Celeste Alexander Fry, who has been nominated to serve on the College of Southern Maryland Board of Trustees. Ms. Alexander Fry has over 20 years of leadership experience stemming from her business, Alexander Fry Consulting LLC, which supplies software equipment and support to the federal government, including the Department of Defense. Additionally, Ms. Fry, Alexander Fry, served as a senior consultant for the Department of Defense Business Transformation Agency, a senior consultant with Allegis Group, a senior project manager with the Financial and Portfolio Division of Fannie Mae, and a functional manager with the Administrative Offices of the United States Courts. Ms. Alexander Fry has an impressive career of leading people, projects, and in innovating to meet the needs of a changing community and business environment. Even though she is a skilled businesswoman, she values education and has used her expertise to educate and expand access to financial assistance and scholarships for Calvert County's young people. She volunteers teaching elementary, middle, and high school students food and consumer science under the 4-H program. And she's developed an automated portal for students who submit scholarship applications, expanding access and increasing application volume for competitive financial assistance through the Calvert Local Scholarships Association. Ms. Fry holds a bachelor's degree from Hampton University. She's a skilled leader, a person who gets things done, a champion for our young people. And again, it's a pleasure and an honor to bring before you the second time this session another member of the College of Southern Maryland from Calvert County. And with that, I'd ask the committee for a favorable report, Mr. Chairman.
Can we hear from your constituent?
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Chair Hayes and Vice Chair Lamb. Thank you very much for inviting me here today and the rest of the Executive Nominating Committee. I'd like to thank Senator Jackson for nominating me, and also Governor Westmore and his administration for appointing me to this position. I'm very thankful for this opportunity to assist my county by leading at the College of Southern Maryland. It's an important institution for our youth and providing them not only education, further education and associate degrees, also for work and trade. It's a critical component for Calvert County, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart to do. Thank you very much today for considering my nomination.
Indeed. Thank you for appearing for us today. Are there any questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Senator Mouse.
Good evening, Chairman and colleagues. It's an honor to be here to present a constituent of, well, he's not a constituent of mine. He's close to being a constituent of mine. AC Alray. He should be a constituent. He was. I got to check out his address because he's now he's now with the Somerset County.
Hey, Senator Mouse, sorry to interrupt you. Do you have Keisha Haith with you?
I do.
Let's
like me to
hear
introduce
from
Keisha
first. Yes,
okay.
please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, because my introduction of AC was obviously not going so well. I'll liven the room up a little bit. It's an honor to be here. Johnny Mouse for the record, District 37. It's an honor to present to you my constituent Keisha Hayes for membership on the Medco board. Keisha has extensive experience in economic development. She has been she's been a county economic development director on the shore. Since having that position, she's been involved in a number of other entities and efforts and things, and she's very involved and very aware and very competent. Most notably is in her political career, she gave me the fits of my life in a political campaign, and we today remain to be very close friends. I think the world of Keisha Hayes, and I know that she'll do a wonderful job serving the state of Maryland on the Medco board. We got a lot of needs on the shore. It's pretty interesting in our challenges, and Keisha will know exactly how to get our needs into the priorities for Medco. So with that, I'd like to introduce Keisha Hayes. Thank you, Keisha.
Good evening. Thank you, Senator Hayes, for allowing me to be here this evening. As Johnny said, I spent 23 years in economic development, serving as the Economic Development Director. And now I run a nonprofit, and I am serving my first term as Talbot County Council for Talbot County, Maryland. So with the Medco board, I will be serving as an elected official on the Medco board. And I look forward to working with Tom Sadowski and his staff to certainly help not only in the state of Maryland here on the Western Shore, but also for priorities on the Eastern Shore as well.
Excellent. Thank you for your presentation. Any questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sarah Mouse, since you already started with AC, you want to finish that up, clean that up there?
Yeah, get another bite of the apple. Thank you, Chairman and colleagues. I have verified that AC is my constituent, and there's a moment of I had a hot flash there for a second because AC, who worked in the district, that he was an economic development in Dorchester County. He now works for the city of Crisfield, and I assumed that he had moved to Somerset County. And then I immediately realized that Senator Carrozza represents Somerset County, and I could really be in the doghouse. But in fact, he is a constituent of Cambridge, so he is a constituent of District 37. AC arrived on the shore in 2020, 2021-ish. And since then, he has taken off and been involved in all things economic development related. I just wanted to point out a couple particular issues. He's already a member of Marbitco. He's a member of the Dorchester County Public Library Board of Trustees. He's a member of the City of Cambridge Planning and Zoning Commission. He's a fellow of the Aspen Institute Economic Opportunities Program Workforce Leadership Academy. He is a graduate of Leadership Ohio, a graduate of Leadership Maryland, graduate Leadership Dayton. He's in Dayton, Ohio. He is a graduate of Leadership Kalamazoo. He's an alumnus of John Ben Shepherd Public Leadership Forum. He is a board member of the Maryland Planning Commission Association. And he's also, I could go on and on of the memberships and accolades that AC has achieved. He's being recommended, appointed to serve on Marbitco. I make the reference, you know, he has 2 feet below sea level and 2 hands, 2 feet above sea level. He is aquaculture, agriculture, everything Marbitco does, and he'll be an enormous asset to that board. So I'm pleased and honored to recommend AC for your consideration. AC, thank you. Yeah.
Good evening, Senators, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair. I'm grateful to the governor for appointing me to this board. I look forward to working with it. I represent economic development, rural economic development. And my focus, of course, is the board's focus, agriculture, aquaculture, and forestry and seafood industry is very important. And particularly, as he said in my current 2 locations, residentially and work-wise, we are on the coast. The coast is very important. The watermen are very important. So this provides an opportunity for me to take my experience and background and really focus and try to help promote what Marbeco does to these industries all over the state, but to pay close attention to the Lower Eastern Shore, which needs assistance very much. And I thank you for being here. If there's any questions, I'm willing to answer.
Senator Carrizo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Alray, thank you for being here. I've appreciated working with you in your leadership position in the city of Crisfield, and think that you'll be able to use your appointment on the board here to bring that to Crisfield and to Somerset County and the Lower Shore. I just wanted to ask you, I believe the last interaction we had to do with ag tourism, and wanted just to see how you thought that piece might be consistent with your appointment here to Marbeco.
Thank you. I think it's very important. We just had an ag tourism conference, as many of you know. University of Maryland Eastern Shore just had one in December. Served as a moderator focused on a local and county government's involvement in really helping motivate and helping promote agritourism. And agritourism, of course, is tourism, which Crisfield is known for tourism, but agritourism takes your regular farming and food processing industries, and if they can add a component to it where they can add tourism to it, it helps them not only in the slow time periods when business is slow, by helping them increase their income through tourism, but also it helps spread the knowledge to the communities and to the state about agriculture, and it ties it into the whole tourism industry, which both agriculture, of course, and tourism are top industries in the state of Maryland. So it's very relevant, and it was a great turnout, and looking forward to this year's agritourism conference with UMES.
Excellent. Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you all.
Vice Chair Lamb. Next.
All right, good evening, members of the committee, Chair Hayes, and it's a pleasure to be here to introduce Abisola Ayula, who has been a tremendous champion and advocate for our local school education system here. So it's a real pleasure to be able to nominate her for the State Board of Education. She has had many years of public service, so to speak, in our local schools, both as a treasurer for our local student government. She's a student at Wild Lake High School, as well as most recently and still currently, she's the student member of the Howard County Board of Education. And this is a Board of Education that's dealt with a lot of really challenging issues, and really appreciate her for her service in the community, and also as an advocate for social justice. And so I couldn't be more pleased to be able to support her in her nomination for the State Board of Education. And with that, let me turn it over to Ms. Ayula. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Senators. Good evening, Chair Hayes. My name is Abisola, and I would like to take a moment to thank you all for considering my nomination, and thank Governor Moore for my appointment to the State Board of Education. Additionally, I would like to thank my school community and my principal, Ms. Leonard. It's truly been an honor representing the students of Maryland on the State Board of Education, and it's so crucial that we have their input and their voices at the table when deciding to make these transformational changes in Maryland when it comes to education. So again, thank you so much for your consideration, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much. Next, we're going to call Senator Watson. Senator Watson, you're going to introduce Monica Goldson, and then stay at the podium to also introduce Sean Wright.
Thank you, Chair Hayes. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Senator Watson from the 23rd District, here to lend my ecstatic support for Dr. Monica Goldson to the State Board of Education. She's a friend, neighbor, and a former colleague when I served on the Board of Education. She has served as CEO of the Prince George's County School System for 5 years, just recently retiring. Previously serves as deputy superintendent between 2016 and 2018, overseeing teaching and learning. In that role, she created Early Start program for 3 and 4-year-old pre-K students, created a professional development certification program for teachers delivering Montessori instruction, created a program to improve the number of students who pass the technical skills assessment for their respective career and technical education program, increased the number of students who participate in our dual enrollment program from 844 to over 1,000, and created a teacher's pipeline program for students who earn their high school diploma and associate's degree from Prince George's Community College and then matriculate to the University of Maryland, Bowie State, or Howard University. She's also held a variety of principal, assistant principalships, and other leadership roles in Prince George's County school system since 1991, as well as being an adjunct professor at 3 universities and Prince George's County and the District of Columbia. She holds a BA from Florida A&M in mathematics, Master's of Education from Bowie State University, and a doctoral degree in Education Administration and Policy from Howard University. Her background is diverse and extensive. She holds countless certifications, awards, and achievements, and she's affiliated with various community organizations and advisory boards that support educators and the students they teach, and she has authored multiple publications, including an article, A Workforce Development Model for Our 21st Century Students. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to bring to you Dr. Monica E. Golson.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Hayes. I don't see Vice Chair Lamb, the Executive Nominating Committee. Thank you for having me. I want to first thank Governor Moore for selecting me to continue to serve the staff, students, and parents of the state of Maryland. With over 32 years of public education experience, it feels good to be able to ride off into the sunset and still be able to serve. So I am now available for questions.
Senator Augustine.
Thank you, Chair Hayes. I just want to say that this is probably the finest public servant that I know in the state of Maryland. This woman is exceptional. And she has done so much for the children of Prince George's County. She has led by example in a way that, I mean, I'm just so grateful for all that you've done for our kids. And so I just wholeheartedly support this nomination.
Thank you, Senator Augustine.
What an endorsement.
It was. Thank you, Senator Augustine.
Senator Rosenpep.
Thank you. I want to echo my Senator Augustine's support, my strong support for Dr. Goldson. I've worked with her over many years in the Prince George's County schools. And all the things that Senator Watson said, I believe to be true. But I want to make it a little more down and dirty in the sense that of all the people that I've worked with in the Prince George's public schools over many, many years, she's the one who solves problems. And that's really hard, is you take a problem to her and she solves it. And so I've appreciated that over many years. I miss her terribly from the school system, but look forward to continuing to work with her on the state board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Senator Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Senator Augustine knows me. So, I mean, the fact that you're the. And Senator Roosevelt.
That explains a lot.
That's right. So, I had a couple of questions for you. And your resume speaks for itself. It's great to have someone with the kind of experience that you've had, practical experience. You come from a local school system, obviously a very large one. One of the concerns that some of us that represent different areas of the state have had has been in the past. There's been a disconnect at times with MSDE and our local school systems. And it's great to have your experience because you obviously wouldn't want that to happen. But can you speak a little bit to whether it's understanding the flexibility of where some school systems may have certain kind of emphasis on certain types of technical education or what certain types of emphasis on other kinds of programs? Can you talk a little bit what your philosophy would be in working with the board and our local jurisdiction?
Yep. Thank you for the question. First, it's important to know that there are 24 local education agencies in the state of Maryland, and each one brings to the table different attributes. The demographics are different in the location within the state. Also brings with it lots of characteristics that we need to look at as a state board. What I am grateful for is having been a member of PASAM, which is the Superintendent's Association. Now Maryland State Department of Education has opened the door around communication. And recently we passed a policy around college and career readiness, where we heard from our school superintendents to hear their view, both in small districts all the way up to the largest. As it relates to career and technical education, one of the things that all of the the school superintendents said to us is that they wanted to make sure that we created a pipeline, not just for college, but for career. And that looks differently in each jurisdiction. And so we're willing to continue to work with superintendents so that they see their districts in our policies and that their voice is heard.
Thank you. That's very encouraging and look forward to more of that dialogue. And I do have one follow-up question, if I might, Mr. Chair, and it's on a separate subject.
Sure.
We're really facing, my wife is a classroom teacher. I talk to classroom teachers all the time in my community. We're really facing a crisis of discipline in the classroom. And it's taken a little bit different road than when a lot of us used to talk about discipline, think of it more as like a really violent or disruptive child, which certainly that still exists. But there's also just a lack of kids being prepared by their parents when they get to school and not acting appropriately. And it's become a real problem, and I think in all of our school systems. And I was just wondering if you could speak to, I'm sure you've had plenty of experience, but also if you could speak to what MSDE can do, because we have a lot of great ideas for education, and all of our, I think almost most every teacher does their very best. And yet sometimes our great ideas that we go to conferences and hear about in education, it's hard to implement that when children are coming to school and are not being made to, be in a position where they can learn. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about what you guys can do with the board, with MSD. And that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question as well. So what's really important is that we have to understand the whole child. And as a member of the State Board of Education, it's our responsibility to provide as many resources as possible to make sure that we assist our district leaders as well as our principals, teachers, to make sure that they have the resources to do that. One of those is around the supports around mental health support, because sometimes our students are acting out because they're having situations of which they need an opportunity to have someone to speak to. And so additional resources, whether it's funding or making sure that we highlight best practices in school districts where they are having tremendous gains and helping to reduce the discipline infractions, is an opportunity at the state level for us to continue to promote those activities and make sure that we continue to hear the voice of our educators, because they're the front lines on ways that we can support them. Thank you for that.
Senator Muse.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to also say, along with my colleagues, we are very proud of you. Personally, I've worked with you on a number of issues down through the years, and colleagues, she's been responsive. And if I can say this the right way, she's been truthful about situations and objective. She doesn't just say what's right, but she's willing to say, this is some things that we need to look at and fix and move to fix them. And I am just elated and proud that you are doing the work that you're doing on our State Board of Education, and continue to go.
Thank you.
Proud of you. Thank you.
Vice Chair Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the years, there have been efforts to add and include different elements into the framework that the Board of Education has when it comes to curriculum, and particularly when it comes to certain cultural elements. There's been legislation in the past about including more Asian American, parts into the framework because of some of the AAPI discrimination and hate that we've seen. And that, there may be different opinions about how much should be legislated on that particular issue, but it does represent a feeling that some folks in the community have when it comes to that issue, that our schools aren't necessarily reflecting the diversity of the state. Do you have any thoughts on how we can ensure that students and their families see their cultures reflected in our schools so that folks are familiar with kind of the broader diversity that represents our state?
Yep, thank you. So in order to make sure that that happens, we have to be at the State Department inclusive around making sure that we have participants who are helping to frame what those curriculum standards should look like, and to make sure there's inclusivity at all frames of the state of Maryland. I've been at Maryland State Department of Education working intimately in this role for the past 6 months. And what I can tell you is that there's a staff that's committed to getting it right for every student so that they see themselves in that work. Is it completely done yet? No. But they are on the path of making sure that culturally responsive teaching looks like and feels like what it should in every school district across the state of Maryland. So I think in the coming months, you'll be able to see the fruits of that labor.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Excellent. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, Senator Watson, we want you to come back up to introduce your next constituent. Sean Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Senator Watson here for 23rd District, here to present Sean Wright for the State Racing Commission. And as you know, the 23rd District is home to Bowie Racetrack. So this to me is a very, very important nomination. Sean holds a BA from Howard University and a JD from Santa Clara University. She's been admitted to the American Bar Association, the District of Columbia Bar, the Maryland Bar, the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the National Bar Association, and the Women's Bar Association of District of Columbia. She's currently a partner at Blank Rome LLP as a litigator in white collar defense and investigations practice group. She regularly appears before enforcement agencies such as the Department of Justice, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and other regulatory authorities. Her practice includes internal compliance program development and establishing workplace compliance, policies and procedures, due diligence in mergers, and acquisition and post-acquisition integration. She holds many official recognitions and awards, which include listed in the Best Lawyers of America in Criminal Defense, White Collar 2023-2024, Top 500 Leading Litigators in America in Law Dragon, a legal media company, and listed in the Lawyers of Color Power list, in the Lawyers Color Power issue 2020 and 2023, just to name a few. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I'm delighted to present to you Ms. Sean M. Wright.
Thank you, Senator Watson, Chair Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb. It's a hard act to follow Monica Goldson, I tell you. I think I get points just for that, but I want to thank the entire NOMS committee for your consideration of my nomination to the State Racing Commission. I also want to thank Governor Moore and his team for really giving me the opportunity. I served as a commissioner years ago under prior administration, Governor O'Malley. I was a commissioner on the Civil Rights Commission. I chaired that commission for the last 4 years. So I'm very excited to again have the opportunity to serve the state of Maryland in the Racing Commission. It's a pivotal time, as you all know, in the racing world in the state of Maryland. And I think I bring a different creative, objective, regulatory compliance piece that should be interesting as we have further discussions about the state of racing in the state of Maryland moving forward. So I'm available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you so very much.
Great, thank you.
Indeed. Senator Kelly, I saw you back there behind the podium. We were looking around to see if you were here. You're going to introduce Samir Paul.
I am here. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Executive Nominations Committee. So you have already heard two really extraordinary nominees for the State Board of Education, and I am here with your third. And I will say I'm so excited to be here to introduce Samir Paul to you all. He is someone I have known probably 10 years, and he really is an extraordinary human being. I don't say that lightly. I adore him. And we don't often say that about people who ran in fields with us, but I adore him. He is a Maryland public school graduate. He came out of his undergrad at Harvard and went to teach for America. And then he went to teach at Montgomery County Public Schools, where he taught computer science. You'll see from his resume, he also led initiatives to expand computer science, racial and gender diversity programs, which I think was really important. I have had the privilege of meeting a number of his students over the years, and they were really inspired by him, both as a human, as an educator, as someone who got them engaged in computer science, but also the importance of public service. He did go on to law school at Columbia, and then he's clerked at the U.S. District Court of Maryland, U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland and the Maryland Supreme Court. He's now working at the U.S. Department of Justice Criminal Division. You can see all that in his resume. I think what also comes through in his resume is that he is a brilliant person. I want you to know that he is that special combination of brilliant and not arrogant that we look for in public service. So I really enjoy working with him. I think he is an extraordinary nominee for our Board of Education. I'm thankful he's willing to serve. I'm excited about all the nominees that we have seen tonight. And with that, I introduce to you my friend, Samir Paul.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Senator Kelly, for that lovely introduction. I apologize, I'm not Monica Goldson. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much. Thanks also to the governor, to my lovely partner Susanna, and to my parents who are here. That's the real winners, the immigrant parents. I am a former public school teacher. I came back to Montgomery High School. I taught in room 314, the same classroom that I had once been a student in, dozing off in the back left corner. And I'm just very grateful that my narrative arc has taken me here to a position where I can try to make a difference for young people across the state, big schools, small schools, every ethnic and racial background, immigrants, kids born here, conservative, liberal, everything in between, big counties, small counties. I'm really pumped to do this work for the young people of Maryland. And I think I have a unique cocktail of skills that's going to hopefully do some good. So I'd love to take any questions you have.
Senator Feldman.
Yeah, I just want to weigh in with a second on the nomination. I've known Mr. Paul quite some time and really can't think of a better, like you say, cocktail of assets and background for this particular gig. And so I just wanted to weigh in and say that. And I think the governor did, definitely hit a home run with this nomination. So I'll yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very much. Thank you. Next, we have Senator Guile, who's introducing no stranger to this committee, Jake Weissman.
You stole my joke. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I was going to say that often our colleagues come up here and begin their remarks by saying this individual needs no introduction, and this individual does indeed need no introduction. It is a pleasure to introduce and to endorse my constituent, Jake Weissman, to the Maryland Board of Elections. With a rich background in public service, Mr. Weissman, I'm just going to say Jake, if that's okay. Jake has demonstrated exceptional leadership and commitment to democratic principles throughout his career. Currently serving as the Associate Vice President for Government Relations and Community Affairs at UMBC. He plays a pivotal role in shaping the university's external relationships, advocating for its interests, and fostering meaningful connections with the surrounding community. In his previous position as the Assistant Chief Administrative Officer for Montgomery County Government, he coordinated various critical issues, including economic development, and served as the direct point of contact for key executive branch departments. But of course, and most importantly, he is most well known to this committee for his invaluable contributions to the Maryland Senate, having served as Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff, and Special Assistant to the Senate President. Jake demonstrated exceptional leadership in managing the intricacies of policy, including advising on pivotal issues such as budget and tax policy, healthcare, labor, energy, education, and much, much more. He also managed the implementation of COVID-19 protocols during session, navigating the complex challenges of that uncertain time period. In addition to his professional accomplishments, Jake brings a wealth of educational qualifications to the table, holding a JD from the University of Baltimore School of Law, magna cum laude, a master's in social work from the University of Maryland, and a Bachelor of Arts in psychology and in social work from UMBC. Jake's remarkable achievements underscore his profound understanding of legislative processes, dedication to public service, and adept navigation of complex policy landscapes. His extensive policy experience, coupled with his legal background and community engagement, make him an exemplary candidate for the Maryland Board of Elections. I'm confident that Jake will bring invaluable insights and leadership, ensuring the continued integrity and transparency of our electoral processes in the state. Therefore, I respectfully request a favorable report from this committee in support of the nomination of Jake to the Maryland State Board of Elections. And without further ado, Jake Weissman.
Thank you. This is a very weird feeling. Thank you, Senator Guile, for those beyond complimentary words. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President, and thank you to the Governor and Secretary Edwards for their appointment and the state party for recommending me. I've learned that talking for a while gets people in trouble, so I'll be brief. I believe we are gifted and privileged to live in a state that values democracy, access to the ballot, fairness, equity, and security in elections. I've been grateful to have spent over 20 years on election issues, whether it was when I was a college student at UMBC with a head full of hair, registering people to vote, or working on behalf of two incredible presiding officers in helping to expand access to the ballot while losing that head of hair. I've learned from the best, including many of the folks in this room, on how to leave partisanship at the door and how to disagree without being disagreeable. As a member of the State Board of Elections, I see my job as safeguarding elections and ballot access for all Marylanders, and know how to do so in a genuine, nonpartisan fashion. I also believe that we are a customer service agency and that our job is to be responsive to candidates and voters. I hope you can call on me if there's anything the State Board of Elections can do to be helpful to you or your constituents. I appreciate your consideration and hope to earn your support. Thank you.
Excellent. I know there'll be a strong urge for everyone to meet too, but there you are. Vice Chair Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I hope you'll not take offense to these questions. These are questions that I think, given the light of the situation and recent occurrences, I think these are all questions that I think are important to have answered. But for you, have you ever done or engaged in any activities that someone might view as questioning the integrity of an election?
No.
And can you say where you were or were not on January 6th?
My alibi is the speaker and the president and the governor. We were in a meeting together in Annapolis.
Got it. So that's a good alibi. I think there are some folks who can vouch for that. And are you confident in the security and quality of our nation and states elections?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Senator Rosenpep.
I'm not going to say me too. I'm going to go a little beyond me too, and I apologize to my colleagues. When I was running in 2022, and I'm going into the new areas of my district, I think it's changed a little bit since then, but I'm going to the new areas in my district, I'm going down the list, and all of a sudden I come to a household of Jakob Weissman. And I'm like, this sounds like Jake to me. And of course, I looked up his age and the age fit, and he wasn't home, but I went for it and left a note to Jake. I was glad to see him and glad I'd be representing him at that point. In any case, I just want to say that there's no one in Annapolis that I've worked with that did better in kindergarten than Jake Weissman. What I mean by that, he has a law degree and a social work degree and an undergraduate degree, but he learned how to play well with others. That's acing kindergarten. And I've seen that every time I've ever worked with Jake Weissman. And it's a tremendous testament to his skills, his personality, and his motivation. So I'm obviously, like the rest of them, very enthusiastic. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Are there any additional questions?
Senator King.
Senator King.
Yeah. Just quickly, Jake and I have worked together and done a lot of different projects over many, many years, and I can't think of a better, more fair person to be on the Board of Elections. He's got the integrity to do it, and I couldn't say enough about him.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank
Me
you.
too. All right. Next, Senator Benson, Senator Joanne C. Benson with Mickey Burnham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You know, every once in a while, I have an opportunity to do something that I truly love. And tonight is one of those nights. I am so pleased to ask you for your consideration for Dr. Mickey Burnham. He really comes to the table with the kind of experience that would make us all so very proud. Dr. Burnham received his master's and his bachelor's degree from the University of North Texas. He went on to receive his PhD from the University of Wisconsin. His specialty is executive coaching. He has led 4 different comprehensive universities: Elizabeth City State University, Bowie State University, which is where I had the wonderful opportunity in working with Dr. Burnham. And I saw how his passion existed when it came to being sure that every child that came to Bowie State University would succeed. And that to me did something to my heart. The fact that he was so available for the parents and the people and his staff to ensure that the job was done in the best interest of the students that were there at Bowie State University. But he also worked at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore and Coppin State University in North Carolina and Maryland, respectively, for a total of 23 years. Prior to that, he served as provost and chief academic officer for 9 years at North Carolina Central University, assistant vice president for academic affairs in the University of North Carolina system, an economic faculty member at the Florida State University. In all of those administrative endeavors, Dr. Burnham's leadership has been marked by steady progress and a focus on building effective leadership teams, enhancing academic programs, assuring fiscal integrity, and modernizing facilities to provide state-of-the-art learning environments. In recognition of his leadership skill and effectiveness, Dr. Burnham has been called upon to lead numerous professional organizations. He has been the chair of the University System Presidents at the University System of Maryland. He's a member, board of directors, National Association for Equal Opportunity for Higher Education. So you see, he's coming with the experience and the skills that are so necessary for this most important job. And so I'm just so delighted and excited. I'm overjoyed to present to you all tonight, Dr. Mickey Burnham.
Thank you very much, Senator Benson, for that generous introduction. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I am delighted to be here before you this evening and to have you consider my nomination. I'm thankful to Governor Moore for nominating me to serve on the Maryland Higher Education Commission. For serving there affords me the opportunity to continue what has been a 42-year career of trying to make a difference in higher education. And so I look forward to continuing to work with wonderful colleagues on the commission, looking out for the best interest, best higher education interest of Marylanders throughout the state. So I hope you will give favorable consideration to my nomination and would be glad to try to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions? Senator Sidnor.
Thank you very much and good evening.
Good evening.
This particular commission has had a history of the latest history deals with the case of it being sued for violating certain constitutional principles with regards to our 4 historical HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you were president at Coppin, correct? Of Bowie.
Bowie has served at Coppin and UMES as well, short periods of time.
Just I'm curious what your philosophy is with regards to the role of a commissioner at MHEC when it comes to dealing with some of the issues that has gotten this particular commission in trouble in the past.
Well, when looking at the nomination, I went to the website and looked at what MHEC's mission is, and it talked about coordinating, talked about supervision and planning for all of higher education in the state, and doing so in a way that maximizes opportunities for people to pursue higher education. There's also a theme running throughout the state plan and other documents that I reviewed to this point, which speak to the enhancement, the support and enhancement of the HBCUs because of the opportunities that they afford students. And so my philosophy would be to work as assiduously as possible to carry out what is stated in those documents that I just referred to. I believe that all people deserve an opportunity, the best opportunity for higher education possible. I think the HBCUs provide particular opportunities and should be enhanced and supported. And I think the MHEC documents that I've looked at to this point support that, and I would be vigorous in my support of those kinds of activities.
Push that button. Thank you. In your role as a president of a university, I'm assuming that you've been on one side of maybe putting forth a program that may have been rejected or possibly putting forth a program that others felt that you shouldn't have put forth. So I'm assuming you have some expertise in dealing with issues of program duplication.
Sure, I do. I've had the privilege of working in two excellent systems of higher education, University System of Maryland and the University of North Carolina, a total of, well, more than 20 years in the two combined. And of course, the institutions that I led submitted numerous programs for consideration to the appropriate authorities in those two states. And we experienced both acceptance and rejection, and have dealt with them accordingly.
I would assume that gives you some pretty good insight.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir.
Are there any additional questions? Dr. Burnham, I do have one question to the point with Senator Sidnor. Our HBCUs obviously play a unique role here in the state, right? And
Yes.
there's only a few of them with few resources. How could we, as legislators, lawmakers, or commission, put our HBCUs in a position to be more competitive on a global scale? As we've seen so many of our HBCUs close and go down, how can we do the enhancement and make them more competitive here in the state of Maryland? And is one of the ways included in that competitiveness, to the point that the senator brought up, avoiding opportunities where there may be duplication?
Thank you for the question. I think the short answer is by continuing to support the activities that you've been engaged in for the last several years. I think the passage of the legislation that afforded the HBCUs that are part of the state of Maryland, as I recall, it was after I had retired, but $577 million comes to mind, provides resources that helps those institutions do the things that they need to do to afford the quality of educational experience that students need and deserve. So looking at building capital improvements projects, looking at support for funding of various kinds for those institutions, and being very careful to guard and to support those, I think will make a wonderful difference, and has made a difference the last several years. So I would just urge you to continue to be vigilant about the needs of those institutions. When the presidents come before you for budget hearings annually, listen carefully to what they say, ask the questions that you need to ask to fully understand, but then support them. With the support from the legislature, providing financial resources and the other oversight support, University System of Maryland, Maryland Higher Education Commission, just make sure that you have the best people you can bring to those organizations, and that they have the best interest of all of the students of the state in mind. I think continuing to do that will continue to make a big difference.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear again from Senator Joanne C. Benson for Charlene Dukes.
Dr. Charlene Mickens Dukes. Where do I start? Here we have another outstanding educator. You all have her resume. I'd ask you all to look at it and be so thankful that we have someone like Dr. Charlene Dukes, who will be serving in higher ed. She knows how to get it done. Like Dr. Burnham, they know how to get it done. She received a Bachelor of Science degree from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, her doctorate and a Master of Education from the University of Pittsburgh. But for those of you who don't know, right now she is serving as the interim president at Montgomery College. And what I found out that was very surprising is that this is one of the most diverse community colleges in the country, with designations as minority serving, Hispanic serving, Asian Pacific Islanders serving 53,000 credit and non-credit students in partnership and collaboration with 400 full-time faculty, 600 part-time faculty, and 2,000 staff and administrators. The college has a national reputation for focusing on radical inclusion and equity for its students, employees, and the community. Also, as I look at her resume, she's also a founder of and principal of the Duke Group, which is responsible for providing consulting services tailored to higher education, community nonprofits, and policy groups in support of organizational development and diversity, equity, and inclusion. But my relationship with Dr. Dukes is that she was the president of the Prince George's Community College. Colleagues, this wonderful woman went on the campus and turned the Prince George's Community College on its head. She was able to get the financial resources to expand the college, working tirelessly with her staff, with the state. She came down here. She was unafraid to ask for funding for the Prince George's Community College. And she has received so many awards. She has done an impeccable job. We are so happy that she is in Prince George's County. We are so even more excited about the fact that she knows how to work with people from all walks of life. When a student comes on the campus of Prince George's Community College, they are there because she cares about them and she wants them to be successful. And in most cases, the students have been very successful because she has had the good sense to surround herself with some of the best and the brightest. And it is my understanding that she is doing the same at the Montgomery Community College. I could go on and on talking about the many awards and the wonderful things that Dr. Dukes have done in Prince George's County that has raised the bar, not only for Prince George's County, but for the great state of Maryland. I am just overwhelmed with joy to introduce to you all tonight, Dr. Charlene Mickens Dukes.
Thank you, Senator Benson, and good evening, Chair Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, Mr. President, and the members of this Executive Nominations Committee. Now I'll make a slight correction. I was the interim president at Montgomery College now probably about 2 or so years ago. The current president is Dr. Jermaine Williams. I just want to make that correction. I had the opportunity to serve for a brief period of time while the board there was undergoing its search process. I do want to thank all of you for your time and attention this evening. And I want to thank Governor Moore for his belief in the work that we could do in higher education here in the state of Maryland. So I am also pleased to acknowledge Acting Secretary Rye, who is with us tonight, and Mr. Coley from the commission.
And it's been my lifetime commitment and passion to be involved in higher education. I've spent more than 40 years in higher education, about almost 25 of them here in the state of Maryland. So I'm delighted to serve with my colleagues and delighted to see the trajectory of post-secondary education here in the state of Maryland. So I'll stop there, and I am certainly prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Dukes, for acknowledging Secretary Rye. I meant to do that earlier and forgot, but thank you and welcome to the committee. Senator Sidnor.
Thank you very much and good evening. One of the responsibilities of the commission is implementing a plan to eliminate the vestiges of Maryland's former segregated higher education system. I'm curious, I think you've probably been on the commission just for a few months since the summer, correct? Have you had an opportunity, you and the rest of the commissioners, to tackle some of this or that part of this particular responsibility?
Thank you for the question. I believe that we are certainly in the process of looking at that now. We have the recommendations that have come from the special committee with regard to HBCUs particularly. And we are going to be both reviewing and responding to those recommendations. I believe, quite frankly, that we have the responsibility to think about the vestiges of segregation and underserved, historically underserved and traditionally underserved students across all sectors of higher education. The community colleges are four-year partners and both public and private. So I think that we have an awesome opportunity in front of us in the state of Maryland to become the kind of state that we want to be when it comes to providing a world-class education, both through the K-12 system. Many of you are aware, I had the opportunity to serve on the Maryland State Department of Education, and I spent my last 3 years there as chair of the board. For me, this is the continuation of a journey to ensure that there is not just equity, but equality in all that we offer across all sectors of higher education.
And given your background, I'm wondering, are you likely to be the advocate for our students who have attended junior college and are transferring to four-year colleges and things like that? I mean, I've heard at times you've had students who have tried to do that and the difficulty in capturing credits and the like. Do you have any unique experience with dealing with students in those issues?
Absolutely. And probably if you've had the opportunity to listen in to any of the commission meetings that we've had thus far, that I am constantly talking about the fact that we need to ensure that all of our students have access. And that is entering, transferring on to other institutions, and quite frankly, taking advantage of the fullness of what Maryland offers in all of its higher education institutions. So absolutely, I think that we have the opportunity for transformation and innovation, and we can do that in partnership with the legislature, in partnership with MSDE, and certainly in partnership with the Maryland Higher Education Commission.
Thank you for your responses.
Thank you.
Senator Rosenpep.
Thank you. I just want to strongly support the nomination. I've had the pleasure to work over a number of years with Dr. Dukes, and I want to particularly focus on the innovations that have taken place that she has led. One is we had the first early college high school in the state on the campus of Prince George Community College, where kids are graduating every year with an AA degree and a high school diploma. And we need more of that. And I hope part of what you'll be pursuing in this job is that kind of innovation elsewhere in the state. Secondly, another innovation along the same line is the 3D program with the Prince George County Public Schools, where kids can also earn the credits in high school integrated with University of Maryland Global Campus. So if they do the program successfully, they basically get to a four-year degree with no tuition. So it's a big deal and can be scaled in the state. And I hope we'll be able to work on those kinds of things going forward. So very happy you're serving on the board. Thank you.
Senator Augustine.
Thank you, Chair Hayes. I just want to really support this nomination. We're getting two of Prince George's County's finest serving on the state level. And I really strongly support this nomination, given all of the tremendous work that you've done for all of us here in the state of Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to add, not necessarily a question, but you made a statement that sometimes I think some people get confused, and there's equity and then there's equality, right? Equality meaning giving everybody kind of the same thing, but equity meaning people where they are so they could get to the level where we want them to be. And hopefully the notion of equity is understood especially when we talk about, our institutions that may not be starting off at the same level as some other institutions, and giving them an equal opportunity to be successful here in our state. And so I appreciate those comments and hope that your career as a commissioner will be just as successful as your career that led you to be here today. Thank you so very much. Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go a little bit out of order. I see Senator Elfreth here in the back. She has a commitment, and we want to try to honor that really, really quickly. I'm going to ask Senator Elfreth if she would come up and present Harriet Cooperman. I hope I pronounced that right. I apologize if I did not. And then after Ms. Cooperman has had a chance to present, we're going to have you also introduce Lynn Ullman right afterwards.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Senator Sarah Elfreth here to proudly stand with two what will be wonderful members of the State Labor Relations Board. One comes from a very technical background, as you'll see in her resume. Ms. Cooperman spent the bulk of her career in the legal field and working on labor law from that perspective, and she brings a tremendous wealth of knowledge. Also, you'll see she served as a faculty member at the University of Baltimore School of Law. And of course, I always like to sprinkle in her commitment to this community here in District 30 with her service to the Annapolis Book Festival. But you're going to get a very wise, technical person on this board. I'm thrilled to have her experience and her contributions to the state, and proud to stand with Ms. Cooperman.
Thank you, Senator Elfreth. Chairman Hayes, Vice Chairman Lamb, members of the Executive Nomination Committee. Thank you so much for considering my nomination. I want to thank Governor Westmore for nominating me to this very important board. For 22 years, I served on the State Higher Education Labor Relations Board, which in addition to the other two state labor boards, dealt with collective bargaining rights for various state and public school employees. And then last year, the legislature in its wisdom created a single board, the Public Employee Relations Board, to handle all of these matters, to administer the collective bargaining laws for public school employees, higher education employees, community colleges, and state employees. And this is was a wonderful move by the state legislature to protect employees' collective bargaining rights and to promote stable labor relations in the public sector in Maryland. So I really am honored to be nominated, and I hope you will favorably look upon my nomination. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Senator Lamb.
Thank you, Ms. Cooperman. Pleasure to have you here this evening, and thank you for your service on the Public Employee Relations Board. It was legislation that myself and Delegate Jazz Lewitt had brought forward to really look towards consolidating these three labor relations boards. Last year, we're glad to be able to pass that through the General Assembly. And I know there's been a lot of work that's been taking place behind the scenes to, basically engage in the full consolidation of those boards. The executive director was here last week as well, and certainly appreciate all of those efforts. I know there's a lot going on, and certainly hope that you'll keep an eye out on staffing at that board as well. We know that the director had been able to bring on a lot of new individuals to help. But as with a lot of these efforts, just if you can keep an eye on that, that would be much appreciated. But a lot of great work being done there, and thank you for your service on the board.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Senator Elfreth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back again to present Miss Lynn Oman. So we've gone from somebody with a deep background in the legal field and in higher education, labor relations, to Miss Oman, who has a great background in K through 12 labor negotiations. So Miss Oman spent the bulk of her career at the National Education Association in Washington, D.C., advocating for our hardworking educators, and has since gone into private consulting, working on similar issues. You were back and forth between DC and Annapolis. I'm really proud that you're now an Annapolis resident so that I can present you today. But Ms. Oman also has deep background in our community and brings a wealth of knowledge to this board, and I'm proud to recommend her.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. And I'd of course like to thank Governor Moore for appointing me to the board. It is truly a pleasure to be a part of a state labor relations board for the state that I've actually resided in for many years, Bethesda first and then Annapolis. And for me, being on the board is just a capstone to my career, because labor relations have been at the heart of what I've done since I finished graduate school. And it'll be a pleasure to serve, and on a new board as well.
Excellent. Are there any questions? Thank you so very much. Next, we will hear from, I'm going to tab it out of order. We're going to come back to and finish up the last nominee to the Higher Education Commission. So Senator Zucker, if you would join us in introducing Janet Warmack.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. For the record, Senator Craig Zucker here, presenting Dr. Janet Warmack. What's great about this nominee is she brings experience not only in higher ed, where she currently serves as the Vice President of Administration and Finance at Salisbury, but she's got just a great resume going, serving in a finance background in Houston and other community colleges throughout Maryland and higher ed institutions. She also worked for county governments, working as one of the chief procurement officers. So it's also, I have to say that she made a top 30 influential women list in Houston, but I'm looking forward to a repeat here in Maryland. But with that, it's my great pleasure to put forth the nomination of Dr. Warmack.
Of course. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Executive Nominating Committee for considering my commission in the role of a commissioner for the Maryland Higher Education Commission. I also want to thank Governor Moore for selecting me to serve on the commission. While I am a VP of Finance and Administration and Finance, I want you to know that I am an advocate for all students in the state of Maryland for higher education. It is a must in order to meet the workforce demands of the future. We need educated students. Many of our students, we are finding in the last 5 or 10 years, are first generation and not able to provide all the resources that they need to come into our institution. So I'm an advocate of funding our students, number one, to help them, but more importantly, to providing all the services, whether it's buildings, whether it's labs, classrooms, faculty members that we need. I'm an advocate for that. And I think serving on the Maryland Higher Education Commission can help me, give me an opportunity to bring my background in policy, strategic planning, and financial, how to manage the finances for the institutions to the Maryland Higher Education Commission. We have a roadmap. We have a state plan. We have goals, and we now have the work that came out of the commission that will guide the Secretary of Higher Education, Dr. Rye, in what we need to do as commissioners. So I'm poised and ready to serve in that role. And I thank you all for your consideration. I also just want to thank my mother, Mrs. Pemberton, for being here this evening, for her great support. She supported all 3 of her kids to higher education, and that's important. So thank you to our parents in the room. So thank you all. I can take questions.
Are there any questions? Senator Sidnor.
Thank you very much. And I can't ask the other two questions and not ask you something. So one of the, again, when this commission looks and accepts new programs and the thing, there's this balance that it has to do to kind of bring in cutting edge programs to the universities, and the responsibility of the commission to implement this desegregation plan. Could you talk a little about how you would weigh those?
Yes, so we are going to be guided, number one, by the Secretary of Higher Education. But we do have a way forward in how that's going to take place, and we are going to implement that along with his guidance and his team's guidance. So we have a plan of how we're going to look at it, from bringing in outside sources to help us understand from experts, how do these programs fit, and looking at some detailed information. You know, I'm an analyst, so I want to look at the detailed information about how does that fit into Maryland's plan? How does that fit into the workforce, and what is needed at all of our institutions? But we're going to do that together as part of that. And obviously, we're going to look at our HBCUs. They are in the state plan. We have an obligation to enhance and support our HBCUs and how we bring about the programs in the state of Maryland. So there's more work to come on that. We're still working on, you know, what the logistics looks like in terms of that, but we're going to work together as a commission to make sure that we're able to do that.
Thank you very much.
Senator Carrizo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wanted to thank you for your interest in serving and ask you, I met with the acting MHEC secretary today, and he talked a little bit about his interest and increasing involvement in addressing enrollment issues across the board, and also talked about his interest in personally becoming involved as a leader with recruitment. And it was music to my ears, because, you know, we want to keep our talent here in Maryland, and specifically on the Eastern Shore. I represent Salisbury University, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and Warwick Community College. So with, you know, I guess with this appointment, and I guess sharing with you what the acting secretary shared with me, do you have some thoughts on enrollment?
On enrollment, I think Maryland is poised to grab those students that are not coming to college. And that's where we need to make inroads. There are students who are not going to college for whatever reason, and there are students who are dropping out of college. And I think with the work that we're going to do on the plan and as a part of the commission, we can help our institutions and support our institutions on how to attract students who are either leaving the state or not going to college. So we do need to address enrollment, I think. And the other part of it is how we're looking at the programs, right? There's new and innovative jobs coming about. And I think that the work of the commission and the work of the Secretary of Higher Education can help look at, you know, do we need AI jobs in the future, and what programs do we need to implement at those institutions, and what and how do we attract students into those programs? So we have we've got a lot of opportunity in front of us to enhance our enrollment. And so there are just many ways to go about it, but I think we're poised and in a great position to do that. I will say Salisbury University in a recent report showed that they were a great transfer institution. So students were transferring to Salisbury from Warwick, which is great. I think they were number one for transfer education. So we need more of those opportunities and more of those partnerships also to help our enrollment plans and our enrollment management across the state.
I'm glad you mentioned that. They made it a smooth process.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Colleagues, if you all were looking at the agenda, we skipped one earlier. I'm gonna call up President Ferguson to introduce Councilman Costello, and then Senator Wallstrike, I understand you have another commitment. We'll get you right after this.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. It is a pleasure to be here to present a colleague and a friend. Mr. Eric Costello is also a councilman in the 46th district, also has part of the 40th district none of the 45th, right? None of the 45th. Just the 40th and 46th. We're sorry to the senator from the 45th for, but one of the hardest working individuals in Baltimore. There is no problem that Eric does not find a way to solve. It is truly a pleasure to be here to present him this evening for the Medco board. And not only is his work on the council relevant, but served for nearly 10 years at the GAO, understands how the processes and auditing works with making sure that government programs are effective. Medco is one of our most critical institutions for economic development, and he is the right person for this position. Look forward to his presentation tonight and strongly support his nomination. Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I want to thank Governor Moore for the appointment to the Medco board. Very much look forward to working on complex economic development issues, not only in downtown Baltimore, but throughout all 24 counties in the state of Maryland. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions? I just want to say I second the president's nomination. My legislative district overlaps 6 city council districts, and by far, I used to be a constituent of the councilman's, a very needy constituent, that is. But as the president, as the president has alluded to, the councilman is probably one of the hardest working public servants that I know, and I know his knowledge of economic development will be an asset to Medco. Thank you so much, Councilman, for coming this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next on the agenda, I think we're getting back on track here. We're going to go to Senator Wall-Striker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would now be an appropriate time for Jake Weissman stories. Now? All right. Well, then we'll get back to the business at hand. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's an honor to be here tonight with Richard Steyer. So often, sometimes, I'm up here and I said, this person has 10 years of experience, 15 years, 25 years experience. Mr. Steyer has more than 4 decades of experience in labor relations. Unquestionably, one of the most experienced folks in the entire state of Maryland when it comes to this issue. He practiced law for 41 years, including 38 years in private practice and 3 years as an attorney with the National Labor Relations Board. In private practice, he represented and advised associations and businesses in the areas of labor law and collective bargaining, including unfair labor practices, representation elections, labor negotiations, and contract issues. He has previously been confirmed by this Senate and this committee, and I hope we can look favorably upon his nomination once more this evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Walt-Striker, for those kind words. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee, thank you for having me tonight and for considering my appointment. And thank you to Governor Moore for appointing me to this very important board. I have spent most of my career in the fields of labor relations and collective bargaining and employment law. And it's a great honor to be nominated for consideration on this new, very important PERB. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Are there any questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Senator Kagan, who's going to introduce Christopher Conklin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, colleagues. For the record, Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. I first want to congratulate Secretary Tisha Edwards and her whole team, because I think everyone they have brought forward to the cabinet and tonight and every week is just of such a high caliber. I'm really proud to present Chris Conklin, who has recently begun as the director of Montgomery County's Department of Transportation after about 7 years of serving as deputy. Bottom line is, for more than 30 years, he has worked in transportation safety, engineering, Vision Zero, pedestrian safety, railway safety. He has served on COG, the Council of Government. He has worked with Metro. He has worked actually with the cities of Rockville and Gaithersburg, working with them on transportation issues. He is extraordinarily qualified. And as we have Randy Clark as our still fairly new general manager and CEO of our Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, having really smart people like Chris Conklin working with him, partnering with him is going to be a real asset. So I commend Secretary Edwards and I really commend Chris Conklin to you all for this appointment. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Senator Kagan, and thank you, Governor Moore, for this appointment. I'd also like to thank the chair and vice chair, members of the committee for their consideration of my appointment. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to serve a broader set of constituents than those in Montgomery County on the Metro Rail Safety Commission and help represent their interests along with my colleagues from Virginia and Washington, D.C. that also comprise that commission. It's very interesting work, and without the safety of that system, everything else it can bring to us doesn't meet the objectives it needs to, and it compromises the investment the state of Maryland has made in that. So I look very much forward to working on these issues and look forward to your support. And I hope you look favorably upon my nomination. And thank you again to everybody.
Senator Zucker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to second that nomination. Chris has always been very responsive and attentive and fair. And that kind of temperament bodes very well for this appointment. So congratulations in advance. I know you're going to do a great job.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Colleagues, number 13 on your list, Catherine Higgins. We're going to hold. Ms. Higgins couldn't appear this evening, but will be joining us sometime in March. Next, we're going to go to Senator Mary Washington, who's going to introduce to us Tyler Adamson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. You do a lot of work. I hope you are as excited as I am about all of these amazing people that get to re-energize and activate our boards. I am honored and really pleased to recommend to you that you accept the governor's nomination for Tyler Adamson. He lives in the Remington neighborhood of Baltimore City. Tyler, at the moment, he received his Master's of Public Health from Hopkins. He's currently the Director of Epidemiology and Evaluation with the Maryland Department of Health, Cancer, and Chronic Disease. You see his resume. He has a tremendous history of engaging at the city level in areas of public health, at the state level at public health, and actually served in 2019 as a legislative fellow in my office. And so it's wonderful to recommend him. Fun fact about Mr. Adamson is that he was an actor, I guess an extra, in 2007 in Twilight, as a young man. He'll sign sign things up. Again, and the Board of Nursing is very, very, very key, not only to public health, but to employment, to all aspects of Maryland. We know we've had some challenges with that board. We have challenges with workforce. We've passed a lot of that legislation. And while Mr. Adamson is not a nurse, his background in research and analysis and broad public health, I think, will be a tremendous asset to the board. So I am here to present to you Mr. Addison, my former fellow.
Thanks, Senator Washington. Thank you to the chairman and the vice chair and members of the committee. As you said, my background is largely related to public health. I was a vaccine researcher at one point as well, and look forward to bringing a data and equity lens to the work of the Board of Nursing. And a special thanks to Secretary Edwards as well and Governor Moore for the nomination. And we'll welcome any questions.
Vice Chair Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here. And Senator Washington kind of referenced some of the challenges that are still ongoing with the Board of Nursing. I think we continue to hear from constituents and applicants that are having pending licenses that are before the board. and still continual backup. I know there's been some leadership changes at the Board of Nursing when it comes to their executive director. I encourage you to continue to keep an eye out on things, particularly as several folks have mentioned, constituent services, even from the agency side, is very important to be able to be responsive to these applicants as well. And you're probably aware, and there have been media reports about some of the complaints that are still pending before the Board of Nursing, I think 2,000 plus. And even at the current rate that the board might be reviewing those complaints, all the while still safety concerns continue to exist and risks from individuals that are still practicing. But it would take 5 years to get through that backlog of complaints that exist. And that's assuming no new complaints come in, which is obviously unrealistic. So, as staffing and as technology and as management issues come forward before the board, really encourage you to dig deep and kind of bring that public health and data perspective to the work there at the Board of Nursing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Excuse me. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, President Ferguson is going to introduce to us Eldon Littlewood.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. It is my pleasure to present Dr. Littlewood. Dr. Littlewood is a psychiatrist. You can see with her extensive resume the incredible history and background that she has. Her only mark against her is that she's a Dookie. So she had her undergraduate at Duke. Outside of that, one little small mistake, she's incredibly knowledgeable and prepared to serve on the Board of Physicians. She works at the University of Maryland Midtown campus, doing, really unbelievably important work around adult day programs and psychiatric care overall. We need this perspective on the Board of Physicians, and I'm thrilled that she has accepted the nomination to serve and present her to you.
Thank you so much, President Peterson. Good evening. Thank you so much to the committee for your time and your consideration. Thank you to the chair and the co-chair particularly, and thank you to the governor for this nomination. I appreciate it greatly. As a physician in general and as a psychiatrist in particular, it's my job and my responsibility and my privilege to work with patients, work with people at a lot of different times in their lives, often at times that may be some of the harder times in their lives. As such, I'm acutely aware of the responsibility and privilege that it is to work with with individuals in the state of Maryland and the burden that we do carry as healthcare providers. I do understand the critical impact and critical importance of delivering care that's thoughtful, respectful, and patient-centered. As part of the State Board of Physicians, I view that responsibility as an extension of the work that I do every day as a psychiatrist and as a physician, ensuring that we're delivering quality care to the population of Maryland. I'm honored and excited to be considered for this position, and I would be open to any questions you may have.
Any questions for Dr. Littlewood? Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your interest in serving. And I represent a rural area, the 3 Lower Shore, Eastern Shore counties.
Okay.
And so access to healthcare is a major issue, along with the shortage of providers. I've been working to see how we may modernize the relationship between physicians and physicians' assistants so that you make sure you have balance that quality of care with access. And didn't know on some of the partnerships you've had with working not only with physicians' assistants, but other healthcare providers, how you would approach that.
Yes, I've had a fair amount of experience working less with physicians' assistants, more with nurse practitioners, who of course the Board of Physicians does not license, but fall under the category of advanced practice practitioners. And I find that role to be incredibly important. As you say, there is a lack of physicians and a lack of care in a lot of areas. And we need to find ways to extend our abilities and extend our care to people across the state. I do think it's important to strike a balance between an appropriate level of supervision and collaboration across the board so that patients are able to be cared for by people who have training commensurate with the need. However, needs are quite variable, and we are collaborating with physician's assistants, nurse practitioners, other levels of care. We really do need to utilize their knowledge, their experience, their empathy, and their ability to help us reach patients across the state. In my job every day at Midtown, I work with advanced practice practitioners collaboratively every day. I'm the medical director for our day hospital, and I work collaboratively with a nurse practitioner to provide care there. So I'm intimately familiar with the ways that we can negotiate and utilize that skill set. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much. Next, Senator Mary Washington again for Corey Jeweler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like the Board of Nursing and its responsibility for public health and the healthcare and the professionals that are licensed that work in that field, public safety is also a high priority, of course, to this body and to our constituents. I am honored to present to you Corey Jeweler for the Police Training and Standards Commission. Corey was born in Annapolis. He now lives in Baltimore City, of course. He is not as many years into his career as we've heard over the course of this evening, but he has a great deal of enthusiasm and, again, commitment to the public good. A interesting thing is that he was a urban axe throwing coach for 3 years. And he describes that as safely training large groups of occasionally unruly patrons to enthusiastically participate in group activities while following safety precautions. He graduated from Temple University with political science, mock trial, all the things. But again, it is wonderful that in the 43rd district, we have a range of people, and if you don't mind us saying, young people who want to provide service and offer their time to our state. So without further ado, please accept and feel free to question Mr. Jeweler.
Thank you very much, Senator Washington, Chair Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, Senators. As you've heard, I have had interesting jobs in the past, but I have some relevant experience. I worked for the statewide Democrats in this past election. Following that, I was actually just across the street working for then Delegate Nick Charles and his delegation as their Deputy Legislative Director. And since then, I've worked for Councilman Costello, who you saw earlier today, being his special assistant and specializing in constituent services for him. Open to any questions that you guys may have.
Sarah Sednor.
So why this commission?
Honestly, police activity has always been a passion and interest of mine, just equality, justice, reform, stuff like that. When I got an email that it was an open opportunity, I jumped at it, threw my name in the ring, honestly not expecting much, and am very honored and grateful to the governor and for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Senator Muse.
Thank you. Did I hear it right? Yes, the Senator Wright, you said the axe. What was that again?
I was working at Urban Axes for a little bit as an axe throwing coach.
Okay. I want to get that straight. I'm sorry, I misheard. and whatever, I'm voting yes for. Thank you. For the record, I want your number.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are there any additional questions for Mr. Jeweler? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Brooks, who's patiently waited to introduce Michael Hayes, no relation.
Thanks, Chair Hayes and Vice Chair Lamb and members of this committee. You took my question away before I had a chance to ask it. Yeah. And I know some of you probably think that this is the first time I'm meeting the nominee, but let me be the first to say that you are absolutely right. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Even though he lives in the 10th. It is certainly a pleasure to nominate Mr. Michael J. Hayes for the Public Employee Relations Board. You know, he comes with a very, very stellar resume. You know, his work experience includes working as an attorney and an advisor for Chairman Lauren McFerrin. He reviewed decisions or reports and in cases. Then he prepared a draft decision according to the chairman's preferences. Yeah, he worked for the U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Labor Management Standards. You know, he has tremendous work experience. And may I say also that he was a law professor at the University of Baltimore School of Law. You know, he was a co-author of Labor Guides to Labor Law. He was a co-editor of the campaign guide organizing the construction industry. You know, he is an Ivy Leaguer. He went to got his BS degree from Cornell. Yeah. And his JD degree from the University of Virginia Law School. Yeah. So here again, his resume is extensive. Yeah. Attorney Hayes knows that that people change in 4 different seasons. People change when they hurt enough that they have to, when they see enough that they are inspired to, when they learn enough that they want to, and when they receive enough that they are able to, you know. So I think on this particular board, he's going to be very, very effective in employing those ideals. And here again, his resume is long, his experience is extensive, and his leadership will be laudable. I present to you, Mr. Michael J. Hayes. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Brooks, for the very gracious introduction. And thank you to Chairman Hayes, no relation, my loss. Vice Chair Lamb, Mr. President, and all the members of the Executive Nominations Committee. I'm grateful to Governor Moore for the nomination, grateful to Secretary Edwards for recommending me, apparently, and very proud to work with such, here they all are, the distinguished board members with whom I work, not only distinguished, but very active, very insightful. They're doing a terrific job. Vice Chair Lamb mentioned our executive director. She's here. She has more than 20 years of experience with the predecessor boards and is invaluable to our work. And I'm also very grateful. My wife is here, Cosette Hayes, and we are very excited by this opportunity to enforce the Public Employee Relations Act that the General Assembly enacted and Governor Moore signed last year. So thank you for the opportunity and consideration for the opportunity, I should say.
Are there any questions? My loss, sir, quite impressive. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Next, Senator Kelly is going to introduce to us Judith Rivlin.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I am here before you with the 5th and final nominee for the Public Employee Relations Board tonight. That's Judith Rivlin. You have her resume in front of you. I will tell you that she has a very extensive career in labor law, as all the nominees before you had I would challenge my good friend and neighbor, Senator Waldstreicher, because I think hers might even be longer and more extensive than his nominee. But the point is, we've got some really great people on this board. And in particular, Judy's expertise is in public sector labor law, which is incredibly important to this work. So you can see from her resume, her most recent experiences with AFSCME. She's also worked with United Mine Workers of America, Sheet Metal Workers International, and of course, the National Labor Relations Board. Her career is extensive, and I was touched when Dr. Goldston spoke to us earlier, and she said she was looking to ride off into the sunset and still serve. And I feel that way about Judy. And speaking of serving, I will tell you, I do not think has any expertise in urban axe throwing, but she can hit a mean pickleball. So that's good too. And with that, I will introduce you and encourage you to support this nomination for Judy Rivlin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I don't know urban axe throwing, but I have done axe throwing and it's remarkably difficult. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak before you today. Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, President of the Senate, and all the committee members. I have spent my career practicing labor law. I began as a civil servant working for the federal government, and then I spent about 40 years as an advocate working for working people at 3 different labor unions where I had a very wide array of experience. And my last 8 years were at AFSCME, a public sector union. And from there, I retired a year and a half ago, and I've been doing some other neutral work as a mediator and as an impartial arbitrator for another labor union. So I love this work. I've done a lot of it, and I look forward to working. It's a very competent, collegial, experienced board. We've already been working well together under Chairman Hayes' leadership, and Erica Snipes is the executive director, giving us good guidance. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I thank you for your consideration, and I thank Governor Moore for nominating me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least, Vice Chair Lamb will introduce Jennifer Wright.
Coming forward, Senator Hershey sends his apologies that he could not be here this evening, but he did send a letter in support of your appointment. And so I'm going to go ahead and read briefly from his letter as your introduction. And Senator Hershey wanted to extend his endorsement of Ms. Jennifer Wright to the State Racing Commission. Dr. Wright has served Cecil, Kent, and Queen Anne's counties with her equine ambulatory veterinary practice for the last 15 years. She has extensive practice in veterinary medicine, and her history of dedication to the equine industry make her a great fit for the Maryland State Racing Commission. Thank you so much, and go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wright. Thank you, everybody, Chair, Vice Chair, all the nomination committee, and Governor Moore. It would be my honor to serve and represent the veterinary community on the State Racing Commission. Any questions?
Brevity is a treat. Are there any questions? Thank you so very, very much. Appreciate it. With that, that concludes today's hearings. And so I will yield for a motion from Vice Chair Lamb.
So I move that we approve nominees 1 through 23, including the statewide nominees S1 through S17, with the exception of number 13.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion moved. We have some remarks from this. No, maybe not. Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. This meeting is adjourned.